Hello and welcome to this episode of HBCU. My guest today graduated from Florida A&M University. Please help me welcome Dr. Mark Griffin. Dr. Griffin, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about sharing with you about the greatest institution on planet Earth.
We're excited to hear all about it as well. So let's start with, just tell me, how did you select Florida A&M as your college of choice?
Well, interestingly enough, I'm from Tallahassee. So I was born and raised right there in the city. And even from a child growing up, I always looked at myself as being a part of FAMU. I can remember even from my home growing up, hearing the band as they would practice, going to all the football games, the homecoming parades. And so it was just a natural progression for me, as well as my siblings. We all went to FAMU because when you're from Tallahassee, there's no other place that you would want to be. And so it was a natural progression and a simple decision, but the best decision I could have ever made.
So take me back to your freshman year. What was it like when you first set foot on the campus of FAMU, and what was your freshman year like there?
Well, interestingly enough, I actually came out of high school a year early. So I was dually enrolled as not only a freshman at FAMU, but as a high school senior. So I actually missed my senior year in high school. So I was, a year younger than most of the freshmen. It was a great experience. Literally being from Tallahassee, seeing literally the nation and in some cases the world come to the campus. I met so many people from places like Los Angeles, New York, Detroit, Chicago, Dallas, even friends from places like Nigeria. And so it was a very rewarding experience just to be able to meet so many different people from so many different walks of life. And it was truly a family environment. And so it was really, it was an eye opener, but it was one that I really enjoyed and wouldn't trade anything for it.
Did you have any challenges there while you were attending school?
Academically, not really. I was always a pretty good student. My mom and dad made sure I got my lesson. And so not really. I think one of the things about Florida A&M, a lot of times HBCUs develop the reputation of being, as some people call them, party schools. But what I found at FAMU was a place with a lot of diversity in terms of if you wanted a great social life, it was there. If you wanted a great academic platform, it was there. And so for me, it was always academics first. Yeah. And so whenever people would see me on the set, which was quite often, it was only after I had gotten my studies done. And so for me, it was not a tough transition. We had professors that really valued our education. They made sure we knew how important it was to them that we got a good education, which was the main reason why we were there.
Were there any, professors or staff members that mentored you while you were there?
Quite a few, and I think they were more like parents, if you will, to those of us who needed that type of a figure. They really cared about our education. In fact, I remember in my freshman year, before I pledged Kappa, which of course, as you and I know, the best fraternity in the world.
Absolutely.
Before I pledged Kappa, the semester before I pledged Kappa, I had a 4.0 grade point average. And I took a bowling class, true story. I took a bowling class and I could not bowl. I mean, I was just a horrible bowler. And the bowling professor, the late Hansel Tukes, he told me, he said, I don't want to ruin your perfect 4.0, so I'm going to give you 10 rolls of the bowling ball. If you get one strike, I'm going to give you an A in this class so that I can maintain your perfect 4.0. After that semester, I had a 3.98. I could not bowl one strike. And so I got a B in that class. And so when I pledged Kappa, I had a 3.98 grade point average and graduated with honors. And so really it was because of the care and the concern that professors had for students like me that I was able to be successful.
Yeah. So talk to me about Greek life at Florida A&M. What was Greek life like? And as you stated, you made the best decision in the world, joined the greatest fraternity in the world. So share with my viewers what that's like on the campus.
Absolutely. I pledged cap. I'm going to date myself a little bit, but I pledged cap in fall of 1979. And on most college campuses, different fraternities have different reputations as it relates to who runs the yard, if you will. And for us, we always felt that we ran the yard. And so it was a great experience. In fact, at that time, the Kappas were just coming back on the yard from a suspension along with Omega Psi Phi. So you have the Kappas and the Qs
Yeah.
just coming back on the yard, fall of '79. And so the hype and the hoopla was literally off the chain. And so I was blessed to pledge with 15 other brothers. 14 of us are still living, and we get together periodically. It was a great experience. Just the whole idea of bonding with brothers. And as you know, back in those days, we really pledged.
Yeah.
We pledged about 6 weeks officially, and there was some additional unofficial time. But one of the best experiences of my life. I learned a lot about what I could and could not endure and accomplish, and through it all, still was able to maintain a pretty decent grade point average even by pledging. Great experience, again, meeting guys from all over the nation. And again, we stay in touch even to this day. Again,
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So talk to me about homecoming. What is homecoming like at FAMU?
Oh, now it's a little different now, but back then it was just absolutely amazing. You knew a homecoming week was coming up, and you as a student, you knew that all the alumni were coming home, and there were all kind of activities and contests, and there was always going to be music, food, and of course, FAMU had the most beautiful women of any college or university anywhere in the world. And so just seeing all the ladies and the brothers, and even though I was a Kappa, all of us, we got along, all the Divine Nine. And it was just one big family. And you didn't care what time it was. You didn't care what was going on. You were just with your family during homecoming weekend, and having the Marching 100, the football team, which during our time, they had some good years, but primarily, it was the band that was the focal point. And so just a great experience. It was just one big family. And again, memories that I will always cherish.
So you mentioned the Marching 100. So, bands are a big deal with HBCUs. So how did the Marching 100 play into that entire HBCU experience?
Oh, they were the focal point of FAMU then, as I really think they still are now. And just the spirit of excellence in which they perform, just the pride, whether you are watching them on the football field or whether you're watching TV and all of a sudden here comes a Pepsi commercial and there's the band. It was the main thing that everybody knew about FAMU was the Marching 100. And, we have so many great HBCU bands now, but everyone who knows anything about HBCU bands know that FAMU's band set the tone and tempo for what a lot of the bands are doing now. And so we're still proud of the legacy and how they continue to perform in excellence even to this day. So FAMU, I don't know where we would be without the Marching 100.
So let me know how you feel that FAMU prepared you for your professional journey.
Well, interestingly enough, even though now I'm a full-time pastor, at FAMU, I was an accounting major, was in the renowned School of Business and Industry at the time, Dr. Sybil Mobley, who was a dean. And again, under Dr. Mobley, she and the professors expected nothing but your absolute best. And what was so amazing about the School of Business and Industry in particular was that most of the Fortune 500 companies, they came on campus to interview. And so every week we were having corporate CEOs on the campus to speak to us. I think it was every Tuesday, we had to dress in business attire, navy or gray suit, white shirt, red tie. You're talking Tallahassee, it could be 95 degrees with 100% humidity, but you still had to dress for success. So we learned what to wear, what not to wear, how to groom ourselves. And we would have interviews with these CEOs from all over the nation. And in my case, as well as most of my classmates' case, we didn't have to go all over the place for job interviews. The corporations came on campus. And I believe when I graduated from FAMU, I had at least a dozen or more solid job offers. I could work almost anywhere in the nation that I wanted to work. And I knew I was prepared because when I went to my first job was in Houston, Texas, with an oil and gas company, major company. And I was hired into an accounting training program along with about 20 to 25 other accounting graduates from throughout the nation. There were 3 of us from HBCUs, myself from FAMU, a young lady from Southern, and a young man from Alcorn. The other 20 or so were from PWIs. There's one young lady from University of Maryland, University of Texas, Texas A&M, University of Houston. And because we were all accounting majors in this accounting training program, we were all required to take the CPA exam. And true story, I remember we all took the exam. And again, back then you had to go to a particular location to take it. We didn't have computers and all that as we have now. And then you had to wait for weeks for those results to come back in the mail. Everyone else on the accounting training team received their results on a particular day. And when they came to work, everybody shared their results. And there were 4 parts to the CPA exam. You had to pass at least 2 parts to keep those 2 parts. So if you only passed one, you didn't keep that one. And of course, if you passed none, you didn't have any. And so that day when they came to work, I think there was one young lady who had passed 2 parts of the exam. Everybody else passed either one or none. So this one young lady was the toast of the town, so to speak. And so they asked me how I did. And I honestly told them I didn't get my results, and nobody believed me. That evening when I went home to my apartment, because at that time I just started working, had an apartment, hadn't bought a house or anything at that point. When I opened my results, I had passed all 4 parts. And when I went to work the next day, and I knew to take the documentation with me because nobody would believe it. And so when I shared with my coworkers and upper echelon that I passed all 4 parts, all of a sudden I got called into so many executive officer meetings and conference rooms because all of a sudden everybody wanted to know about FAMU.
Right.
Tell me about FAMU. And then all of a sudden the corporation, they even upped their recruiting efforts at FAMU because this young Black man from FAMU, and a lot of them would call it FAMU. They didn't even know how to pronounce FAMU.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, because of the success that I had, they wanted to recruit and bring more students in. But again, I give it all to the kind of education and training that I received at FAMU, allowing me the opportunity to be able to sit for the CPA exam and pass all 4 parts the very first time. And because of that, the only time that I've ever had to take it. I'm still an active CPA even to this day.
Wow. So tell me, how did you basically get into the ministry? What was the point in your life where you decided you were going to go that direction?
Well, clearly it's nobody but the Lord. I felt a true calling from the Lord, again, having gone to school to be a CPA, worked in internal audit for different corporations. I actually had my own CPA firm for about 12 years, had grown it to being at that time the largest Black-owned CPA firm in the state of Florida. But the Lord called me into ministry, and so for a long time I was bivocational, maintaining and managing my firm as I also pastored a small congregation. And I remember asking the Lord, if you knew you were taking me in this direction, why would you take me through the CPA and the business route? But now I realize what the Lord was doing, because now that I'm in full-time ministry, He's allowed me to grow what was a very small ministry of about 75 or so members to a ministry that now has well in excess of 1,000 members. We have 2 related corporations. We have a a charter school. We're in our 23rd year as a K through 5 charter school. We also have a community development corporation where we run 8 after-school programs. We have a mentoring program, a child care center. And so through our 3 corporation ministry, we employ about 130 people. And these other 2 corporations were corporations that I was able to set up myself in terms of doing the articles of incorporation, the 501c3, all the tax filings, the occupational licenses. These are things that I did for years for other businesses through my CPA practice that now I was able to employ in the ministry. And so it's helped me to grow our church into not just being a Sunday morning worship ministry, but a ministry that's educating children, that's providing jobs for people to have so they can pay their mortgage payments and their light bills and help them to build their own future. And so, and again, I owe it all to family because of the background that they gave me. And so one of the things I do as a pastor also, in addition to pastoring my church, I do a lot of workshops and training for other pastors, because I realize that most pastors, they've gone to seminary, they have a theological training, but the back office, if you will, how to do the administrative side of a church, a lot of pastors don't have that. And so I try to utilize my skill set to help them understand that even though it's a church, it is also a business, and it should be run in such a way.
So, and that leads me to my next question. You wrote a book entitled Pastor CEO. Share with my viewers the content of the book.
Okay, great. So it's a simple read. When I wrote that book, I purposely made sure it was a simple read. It wasn't too complicated or too long, because the concept of the book is to help pastors understand that as the senior pastor of a church, you are the CEO. Now, most pastors that I know, they love to preach. They love that Sunday morning experience. And in the Black church tradition, we like to stand up and tell people to tell your neighbor X, Y, Z, and they do it. I mean, it's a great rush. But what about the Monday through Friday experience?
Yeah.
And so what I try to do in the book, I try to contrast and compare being the CEO of a church and being the CEO of, let's say, a Fortune 500 company. How are they similar and how are they different? And I talk about things such as knowing the numbers. And I give this tidbit real simply. I teach pastors that a rule of thumb for churches when they're looking at borrowing money, let's say to expand, to build a fellowship hall, or even let's say a new sanctuary, there's a 3.5 times rule that basically says the maximum amount that you're able to borrow from a bank or a lending institution is approximately 3.5 times your annual revenue, or in the case of a church, what we call tithes and offerings. So if your church raises $100,000 a year, as a rule of thumb, you could probably borrow up to $350,000. So if you're trying to do a $1 million project on a $100,000 a year income level, you're going to have to scale that project down. Right. And the reason why things like that are so important is because sometimes I'll see pastors, they'll go and they'll invest a lot of money in getting financial statements prepared by CPAs like me, only to find out that the project they're pursuing is far beyond their ability. And so I give little nuggets, little tidbits like that in the book to help pastors at least, not trying to make them become CPAs, but helping them to understand that the business side is just as vital. And in fact, in today's climate and environment, I believe what happens in a church away from Sunday morning is perhaps even more important than what happens on that Sunday, because of the fact that the world is looking at us from the standpoint of how fiscally responsible we are, not just how spiritually responsible we are.
So you started a community development corporation, and you're carrying out a number of initiatives through that entity. So talk to me about some of the work you're doing in the community with your community development corporation.
Well, through the Community Development Corporation, and we have 2 different corporations. We have the Community Development Corporation, and then we have the Charter School, which is a different corporation.
Okay.
The charter school is just for the charter school K through 5. We have a principal, assistant principal, guidance counselors, certified teachers. We own our own buses. We employ our own cafeteria workers. We prepare our own meals. It's not fresh frozen in. We prepare everything right there. Maintenance workers. So we have a whole staff on the school side. But with the Community Development Corporation, what we have done over the years is we provide a number of services primarily focused on the youth and in some cases the families as well. So we operate a preschool, a child care center called Wayman Early Learning Academy. We also run 8 different after-school programs during the school year. So we partner with 8 different schools. So when the bell rings at the end of the day at 3 o'clock, we provide additional services at those school locations so that those children not only get homework assistance, but they have a safe place to go. Because many of these kids at 3 o'clock, they will be coming home to empty homes. And with crime and violence being what it is today, it helps those families to know that they have a place. We partner with the city of Jacksonville so that these are free services to needy families. And then we extend that during the summer. In fact, we're planning right now our summer camp where we would touch a minimum of 540 children throughout our summer camp, a 6-week, again, a free summer camp, again, to make sure our kids have a safe place to spend their summer. We also use the summer camp to make sure we try to reduce the learning loss that takes place over the summer so that our kids, most of whom are black and brown, when they go back to school in the fall, they have retained most of their learning. We also have a mentoring program where it's primarily black men mentoring young black boys to help them understand what being a man is all about. And it's so rewarding when we see young black boys who are able to see black male role models, because many of them come from environments where they don't see that all the time.
Yeah.
We don't currently run this particular program, but at one point we ran a car wash for ex-offenders, young men who've gotten out of jail or prison, can't find jobs. We would employ them and help them to learn how to come to work on time, how to take orders, how to do basic things that would then help them to graduate to more meaningful employment. So we do a number of things through our various other related corporations, Community Development Corporation and the school, to really better our community. And we're very proud of what we've done. At the same time, employing people to carry out those functions, and that helps them to improve their own personal financial portfolio as well.
You know, it's interesting. I have a community development corporation that I started as well. And one of the things that we do is we do a virtual summer learning academy. It used to be, we started off doing it in person, but then with COVID-19 hit, we turned it into a virtual program. Last year, we serviced almost 200 kids in 53 cities across 11 states. So I'll be in touch with you because there may be some, and it's free for the kids. And you know, I'll be in touch, and maybe we can piggyback and allow some of your people to participate as well, because we are trying to grow that program across the country. But we started that program explicitly for what you described, was to help reduce the summer learning deficits, and we focus on kids K through 3 for that particular program. And so
I think that's so important I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that I think that is so important, and I would encourage other churches and other pastors to utilize those assets, because so many churches, we have buildings and grounds that sit virtually idle after the Sunday worship experience. And in many cases, we are in communities that can benefit from those assets being deployed to do after-school programs, tutoring programs, mentoring programs. And so, I'd encourage all pastors to find a way to utilize your campuses beyond the weekend worship experience.
So, Dr. Griffin, I don't want to end this program without getting the opportunity to number one, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the program and to talk about FAMU. But also, equally as important, I want to present you with our HBCU Lifetime Achievement Award, and we'll be mailing this to you. And this is for your commitment to historically black colleges and universities, and for all that you've done to empower and better the community that you serve. So thank you so much for being on the show. And to my viewers, I want to thank you for watching this episode of HBCU. I'm your host, Dee Brown CEO. And remember, without you, there's no me.